I give 10%. Hold the phone, Henrietta. Are you certain that you're supposed to be giving 10%? Hey, the Old Testament talks about the tithe. Actually, it doesn't. The Old Testament talks about the tithes. There are multiple tithes. See, it's that Hebrew. Kind of gets all spitty. There are multiple tithes in the Old Testament, totaling, give or take, at least 23 to 28%. So if we want to apply an Old Testament, Old Covenant law for that people at that time, then we better up the ante from 10 to at least 23%. But I don't think that is what God desires in either the Old Testament or the New Testament. When you take a look at the tithes, the poor tithe, the festival tithe, the operating of the temple tithe, which totaled 23, maybe 28%, your money that you were giving were basically your taxes for the operation of the system, for the government, for the nation. That is what the Old Testament tithes was. Think Old Testament tithes, and I think it's safe to say, just think, well, those are basically the taxes. But what about giving? How much were we supposed to give in the Old Testament? And the answer in the Old is the same as in the New, as much as you want to. Give from the heart, not from compulsion, says Paul in 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. Give what you desire. Giving has never been an accounting issue. It has always been a heart issue. God knows your finances, and God knows what you can give, which is why you should have a budget so that you can ponder, how much can I give and how much do I want to give? Richard, the answer to your specific question is, it's up to you. But just remember that if you think H&R Block knows your tax numbers, God knows them even better. He knows how many pennies are coming in, how many are going out, and to what God they are going. He wants you to give to Him, not an idol, but to Him as much as you desire. Do you see once again that God isn't just interested in formulas? Then that God isn't just interested in, okay, just live like this, act like this, talk like this, and you'll be pleasing to me. No, no, no. He wants complete heart transformation. That is what giving is about. But you're saying, wait a second, I thought there was a subtext of the church to these church questions. Alas, there is. To whom should you give your first fruits? I would suggest the local church. That's where your first money should go. And the number is going to be different. The percentage is different for everyone because of means, what God has provided, the circumstances that you are in, upcoming expenses. All of those things need to be wrestled with. But I do believe that God wants you to give your first offerings to the local church. And should you have more, then you can give it to parachurch ministries. Now, look, I'm not going to mention any names in particular, but you could, there's some ministries that you could be supporting outside of your church, but do not give to any of them, including us, until you have done business with your local church. One last note, if you don't mind me saying so, there are some churches that teach you give as much as you can. That's where Richard's question of sacrificial giving, I think, where that comes from. Give more than you can. Just throw it out there in faith and give more than you got, and you watch God do great things. Not sure that's a promise in the Bible, nor am I convinced that is good stewardship. I think we take a look at our numbers. We remember how much God has done for us. We give what we desire, but not more than what we have. That's actually bad stewardship. Going into debt is not godly, even when it is because you are giving to the local church. God doesn't want you in debt. He wants you to get out of debt. And I would even go so far to say that until you get out of debt, you should not be giving, because you are not giving your money away. You're giving a credit card or a bank's money away. Give what you can. And When you do that, then I believe no quid pro quo, give me this percentage and God will give you that, give more money and sow a seed and then God will give you a harvest. But when you, from your heart, give to God what you have, what you want, you watch God bless that. Cue the MIDI, please. We are in the middle of our Rescue the Perishing campaign, inviting you to join us in seeking and saving that which is lost. Perhaps this hymn, Hark the Voice of Jesus Crying, perhaps points at you. Verse 3, if you cannot be a watchman, standing high on Zion's wall, pointing out the path to heaven, offering peace and life to all. Does that sound like you? You can't go. You maybe aren't ready yet to start witnessing one-on-one to people. What can you do to rescue the perishing? With your prayers and with your bounties. That's old hymnal language for money. With your prayers and with your bounties, you can do what God demands. You can be like faithful Aaron, holding up the prophet's hands. Will you join us and help us rescue the perishing?